Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our virtual panel discussion. My name is Mohammed Rahmi. I'm the Managing Director of Endeavor Egypt. I also wear another hat where I'm the co-chair of the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Committee at the American Chamber of Commerce. I'm very happy to be moderating today's discussion, Restart and Regrowth. Just some context on where this topic came from before we start, or as people are signing in. Depending on who you talk to in the business community today, you'll find those who truly believe that we're past the crisis, that we're making good progress towards it, and they're planning ahead accordingly. You'll find others that don't believe that and think that the worst is yet to come, and maybe there's another wave of the pandemic that's still ahead of us, and coming with its own socioeconomic pressures and constraints coming with it. So some belong to this camp, others believe to in the other camp, and accordingly this informs the planning. So you find that some are, as they're planning ahead, they're planning to based on a new normal, right? They're foreseeing a completely new world that they're planning for. While you have others that believe, no, we're going back to the pre-COVID normal, business as usual. And you have the more pragmatic ones in between where they believe, no, we're going to go back to, some things changed, right? COVID unleashed some major changes, but then there are some fundamentals that haven't changed and we're going to go back to them. So a bit of a hybrid view. Irrespective of what the view is, definitely one thing for certain is that the past crisis, it has offered opportunities to some, it has imposed some challenges on others, but more importantly, it prompted all of us, and all of us as in consumers, companies and CEOs, governments, policymakers, to seriously rethink how we went about our lives and businesses in the past and how we should steer them moving forward. And it is taking our cue from this rethinking and this critical point of reflection of where we were the past few months and where we're heading the next few months that the idea of hosting this discussion came from. We want to make sure that we share some insights and we share thoughts on how to view the opportunities and how to identify the opportunities moving forward and how to really have the mindset to capture the opportunities. So this is where the idea for this discussion came from. It's intended to be positive, right? So enough with the crisis, enough with the doom and gloom. It's intended to be positive, hopeful, and forward-looking, opportunity-driven, yet still rooted in, still grounded and rooted in realistic assumptions and foundations based on the inevitabilities that may lay ahead. I'm very excited to have this conversation being championed by two entities that for years have been dedicated to enabling and supporting entrepreneurship in Egypt. And these are the American Chamber of Commerce, specifically the Committee of Entrepreneurship and Innovation within the American Chamber of Commerce, and of course, Endeavor as a global organization, and Endeavor in Egypt. For years, both entities have in multiple ways and in different capacities been enabling generations of entrepreneurs together with their impact. Perhaps I'm more excited to have this conversation being led by some of my own personal mentors and individuals who are not just experts in their subject matter, but more importantly, role models to countless founders, entrepreneurs, and members of the business community out there. Today, we're being joined by, and I'm going to make my introductions very brief because each one of them deserves their own, 1 hour intro. But our discussion is going to be led by Ayman Ismail, partner and chairman of Dar al-Ma'mar Group, DMG, and also the chairman of Endeavor Egypt. Welcome, Ayman. Ahmed Mekky, chairman and CEO of Benya Capital. Amir Barsoum, founder and CEO of Vezeeta and Endeavor Entrepreneur, a title I cherish a lot. And of course, Dr. Sherif Kamel, president of the American Chamber of Commerce and the founding dean of the AUC School of Business. Gentlemen, thank you very much for taking the time to join us and for taking the time and for your openness to, to be here and to share your insights on this topic. Before we jump into the discussion, just a few housekeeping remarks. I believe everyone has been emailed the instructions for the Q&A. We have a lot of people dialing in today, so please, we're going to be having the discussion first. And then please keep your questions coming in the Q&A section and not in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. I'm gonna keep monitoring the Q&A as they're coming, and we're gonna be addressing them towards the end of the discussion. Inshallah, we're gonna have plenty of time to address as many questions as possible. Now let's jump right into it. And my first question is to Dr. Sherif Kamel. Now, we talk a lot about the important role of entrepreneurs play in economies, but the promise that entrepreneurs hold in catalyzing large-scale, macro-level change in economies couldn't be more pronounced than in today's world. I remember a saying from our founder, Linda Rothenberg. She says, "When economies turn down, entrepreneurs turn up." So do you believe that? Do you agree with this statement? Do you believe that chaos really unleashes, the entrepreneurial potential, or entrepreneurs come out in chaos? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And I'd like very much the introduction that you made, and you kept on saying, let's keep a positive note. And I'd like to keep a positive note throughout the discussion. You asked a very interesting question. Would entrepreneurs have the ability to thrive in critical time, in crisis time, in chaos, to take it to the limit? Yani, let me just step back for a few seconds and think over the past 20 years. All of us in our respective fields, we were disrupted one way or another by technology. And this dates back to, I go back to the early 80s. Once computers were at home with the PC evolution, working hours were different. With the internet, it started coming even worse, let me put it that way. With the connectivity of mobiles, it's a 24 hours cycle. So we were disrupted for many years. Over the past 10 years, we started hearing the notion of artificial intelligence, robotics, drones, the future of work, and I have to say, and add the future of learning, flex times, working from home, shopping online, and so on and so forth. Even the movies we used to call science fiction years ago, I don't think science is fiction anymore. So the disruption came from that path, and then came COVID-19. A completely different disruption. More or less a stealth attack, an enemy that we can't see, invisible, and it actually disrupted the whole formula. And what came to the rescue was actually technology. It saved the day. Well, if we look at the space we're talking about here, are the companies that thrived over the past 15, 20 years, who are actually either tech-enabled or tech-based. Well, that COVID actually affected the whole world. There's no boundaries, there's no geography, no discrimination. It affected people and economies, the lives and the livelihoods of people. But it also helped mobilize people and resources like never before. Even if you normalize the population of the world today and you compare with World War II, in the time of peace, nothing happened of the magnitude that we're seeing today in terms of economies, societies, disruption of global supply chains, manufacturing, production. But we have to remember one thing, there is no one size that fits all. The impact differs from one community to the other. The absorption of one community to the other. One group stand out are the entrepreneurs. But let me just add a bit of a tangent here. It's the innovative entrepreneurs. I know it's retro when you say those who think outside the box, those who go out there, create, innovate, discover, but it's very true. It's in those chaotic times, it's the entrepreneurs that would really think differently are the ones who can actually make a difference. We've seen that over history. With more opportunities, with more challenges, come more opportunities pending workable, impactful, scalable solutions. So yes, during difficult times, breakthroughs happen. And I think today we're living in a transition period. All of us, all people around the world, all societies around the world. We started off by panicking. So what's happening? It was a shock. And then we started to think, how can we survive? How we can overcome that? I'm not going to get into the details, lockdown and so on and so forth, but it's more or less a resilience phase. And then everybody must say that we're starting going into the adaptation phase. Throughout those phases, getting into the new norm, and I hate to use that word new norm, we're not there yet, of course, and it's work in progress. And I think in the next 3 to 5 years, there will be adaptation. What exactly do we mean by that? And I keep saying that we're not going to fly, that's for sure. But I think it is an opportune moment to think differently, to autocorrect, to reset some of the things. So let's just agree on one thing. It's not just about technology. It's about how we do things. It's about how we innovate, how we think entrepreneurially. And that's very different than just starting up a company. One very important message the whole world realized over the past 4 months. We keep on saying that people talk about change, promote change, encourage change, wish for change, but they do not want to change. We actually saw people changing. And entrepreneurs should keep an eye on that. Entrepreneurs too should be changing. They've passed the realization phase and they're into how to demonstrate the potential. Look at the world today, 7.6 billion people, around 4.5 billion people are actually using the internet. And it accelerated big time over the past 4 months, including, by the way, Egypt. One bit of a footnote here, I just read today that the numbers and usage of the internet and mobility in Egypt, after really seeing a huge increase over the past 4 months, started a bit to decrease. And people relate that to stopping the curfew and going back to normal life. I think we're still into that transition because we realized that we can use stuff that were there for years, but we were not using them, or at least we were not using them at the level that we should have been using them. So the acceleration that happened over the past 4 months, in my mind, could have taken 5 months to reach. But we're there, we're still going through that transition phase, and we need to be adaptable. We need to be creative. So what are the opportunities out there for entrepreneurs? What did we think of more than anything else during that lockdown or during that crisis, pandemic, whatever we want to call it? Resilience, issues related to logistics, education, commerce, transportation, entertainment. It's basically everything. How we can redesign the model, how we can capitalize on building better, more effective collaborations. How we can look at some sectors that were, of course, into our attention, but we need to maybe give more care and attention to them. Healthcare, supply chains, how we can be more creative in problem solving. And instead of thinking of quick wins like entrepreneurs and long-term sort of impactful, scalable sort of endeavors, how we can realize rapid and impactful change. So I believe in during those critical times, entrepreneurs do thrive. The key issue is 3 elements. People, I think it's the most important thing. Data is very important, and access to technology. So the word access. And I keep going back to the point, it's more innovation than just technology. So I think of innovation as a word much bigger than just the limited sense of technology. So the opportunities are out there. And I like to seize the opportunity and say, I hate the word social distancing, but I don't think we were more social than the past 4 months. I mean, spending hours and hours and hours on the phone or on the screens and so on. It's more physical distancing. So if I go back 15 years, Tom Friedman wrote his book, The World is Flat. We're seeing that today, but it's not just flat. It becomes very much disrupted and dysfunctional in no time. Can entrepreneurs save the day? Absolutely, yes. How? I think through realizing how they can showcase through their very nature, which is very unstructured, very risk-taking, very ambitious, very sort of visionary, and come up with a solution that can help actually the community not just overcome the crisis, but also thrive in the post-COVID, which I hope, like you, that it is very soon. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Great points and lots to unpack there. And I want to use your 3 points, people, data, access to technology, to direct my next question to Ayman. And I'm going to focus on people, right? The entrepreneur, that individual at the top of the organizational structure. So reflecting on the entrepreneurial mindset in times of crisis, Ayman, and the profile of leadership that such time mandates. You know, you've been engaged with Endeavor for a long time. You've just attended an international panel. You know, you're exposed to entrepreneurs from here, from Egypt, but also from all around the world. What makes some entrepreneurs stand out versus others, and what are the leadership qualities that are really needed to scale a business, especially in the middle of uncertain times like these?
Thank you, Rahmi, and I'm really honored to be, with Dr. Sherif, Amir, and Mekky. They're friends. They're basically people that always inspire me. So it's really a great pleasure to be among them. Actually, I mean, if we're talking about positive, I see COVID-19 as a very, very positive thing. Honestly, for me, the way I characterize it is basically the world is changing its business model. And if I bring it to our own world, I mean, if you think about it, we're in a world that right now moving in extremely, extremely fast pace, and we're catching speed every day we go, which actually, any speed in the world, just imagine yourself driving a car, the faster you go, the more uncomfortable you will be, unless you're really somebody who don't have a fear built into his system. But in human being, that actually speed comes with uncertainty, with basically volatile, and you're not comfortable, and that's very, very important to understand that we're moving into that world. And when we hear in today's world that there are fast companies and are dead companies, this is absolutely true, because if you're not fast enough to catch with the word speed, you won't be able to do that. So let's see what first COVID-19 did to the world. Did it slow it down? Actually, no. It's actually made the world move much faster. And I'll just give you like a tiny example. Think of yourself and think of how many people that you have around you who are not, I would say, technology capable or tech capable, that, when you would have talked to them before about Zoom or about, connecting via Microsoft team or whatever, they would tell you, what are you talking about? How can I do that? In today's world, you would find many of those people are catching up and are on Zoom every day, and they're able to operate, and etc. So actually, when you bring those people with you, those what I would call the laggers. Those were the people that actually kind of slowing us down. They're actually now catching up on the speed. Look at anything else that in our business community, like travel. I don't think travel will ever come back to be the same. So actually, all of a sudden, we're leveraging technology in a very, very positive way, and people are comfortable with it. Now, that's not all easy, right? Because we are in today's world, we are in a world that's extremely volatile. It's called VUCA, right? That's the kind of terminology that you should always remember. It's a volatile, uncertain, extremely complex, and ambiguous. Now, think about it. Those 4 words, and now I come to the people and what people should be expecting and what they should be doing. If you take those 4 verbs, right, and any normal human being, and I'll say normal human being because they're always the odds, right, will never be comfortable. None of those words are comfortable situations to be in, right? So first skill that I would tell you that people need to train themselves on is a totally new skill, which is a skill that I would call it, you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So the fact that you'd be uncomfortable is a fact. Now, you actually need to work on yourself. How in that word that's actually ambiguous, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, and that puts me in a situation where I'm extremely uncomfortable, how can I work on myself to be comfortable? Because until you become comfortable, you will be blocked. And in any changes with the speed that we're catching today, it's normal. You'll have to go through 3 different phases. First phase is fear. And you have to go through it. You move from fear. Once you get over the fear, you start to get into the learning. Once you start to get into the learning, you're ready to move to the next stage, right? So the whole game here, or the whole skill here, is how can you move through those stages faster? And that's why, I liked very much that we sort of say, this is a positive note. Guys, there's nothing negative about COVID. Today is COVID, tomorrow is something else. And the day after is something else. Just get used to it and fasten your seatbelt, get out of your fear quickly, start to learn out of the new situation and move on. So that's the first most important skills. Now, there's so many studies that were done on CEOs and entrepreneurs and etc. And the one that I really felt like, captured the essence of it, they came and said, like, basically, most of the successful CEOs, and you can apply to your business, you can apply to any business that you see successful. Most of the successful CEOs or entrepreneurs, they were actually people who were, while they were very successful, they were thinking about what is the next business model. They're not falling in love with their own business model. And they do that by surrounding themselves and their network by people that actually give them a hint on the new trend, what's happening next. So they're actually open to that and open to change the business model, because the worst thing that could happen to any business is that you get stuck in your own business model. And you have so many different cases, whether it's Nokia, whether it's Kodak, those are people that were stuck in their own business model. So the successful people, those are able to surround themselves with a new network that allow them to move into that network, allow them to be open to learn and to start to change their business model. So you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So when you go and sit with those people and they tell you your business model is not valid anymore, you don't freak out, right? You actually take that as an opportunity and you say, oh, great. So what would be next? What do I need to do? The next thing is, like, you will not be able to change your business model with people like you. You need a diverse group of people around you. You need people who are not thinking the same way you're thinking. And having them around you, which is what I call diversity of point of view, is not enough, because you can have them and frustrate them. You actually need to have them and then move to the next action, which is include them, the inclusion bit of it. So your ability to have a diverse team and your ability to include those people is the next skill. The last skill that I would tell you, you could do all of those, right? So now you know that the business model, it needs to be changed. You have the people. You are, kind of comfortable being uncomfortable. But the courage to change your business model is not there. And that's where, I would say the third skill. So the courage of, yes, the business model that have been made my company successful, I'm over with it. I now need to move to the next thing. And honestly, I think, like, airlines, for example, if they're not doing that today, they're in big trouble. This industry will completely change. So who will be able to come up with the new business model for that? And in every business, that's in a large scale and in a small scale. So in summary, be comfortable being uncomfortable, live with it, move from fear to learning to action very quickly. Think of the change of your business model when your business model is working at its best. Just look at the trends. Surround yourself with network that allow you to do that. Have a diverse people and include them, and have the courage to do it. And actually, at the end, it's fun. It has to be fun. And if you don't have the fun element of it, none of that will make it even worse. And I'll stop here.
Very interesting, Ayman. Thank you very much. You said, you began your remarks saying the world is changing its business model. And I'll take that as my cue to go to Amir. Amir, you're an entrepreneur, and you are part of, again, a global network of entrepreneurs. So you're seeing so many entrepreneurs who are reacting, whether it's proactively or reactively, to the changes the realities is imposing. What are you seeing? The crisis is offering so many opportunities to capture. How are you seeing entrepreneurs seizing these? How are you seeing them pivoting their businesses? We hear a lot the term pivot. Are really entrepreneurs pivoting? And if so, how are they approaching it? I'd love to hear your perspectives on how businesses are pivoting from where you stand.
Thanks, Rahmi, very much. Thank you for the invite, and very honored, honestly, to be with this group of economic and societal stars, Ayman, Sherif, Mekky. Thank you for the invite again. I think about that. I'll take a step back and think, okay, what is this change that COVID-19 has put on our tables? We were a society and a group of people, as just human beings, we used to move to the service. And the very, very straightforward change that now service needs to move to us because of the mobility restrictions and the lockdown and the like. This move has started obviously with all of the delivery and these kind of innovations that has been led by Ubers and the likes, but it's obviously a massive emphasis that happened on this move. Instead of taking consumer to the service, we now try to take the service to the consumer. But then towards end of May, early June, we realized, that's not all of the story. Actually, in countries where they opened up a little bit, we were shocked. Restaurants are packed, beaches are packed. So we are at the end of the day, we're human beings, but we're also physical beings. And then there's also the physical angle of how you would take the service there. It's not like every single thing would be virtual, but there is a kind of a mix that in your business model, going to what Ayman was saying, is the kind of mix that you'll be building in your business model that will capture a piece in passing the service to the consumer, but also if the consumer decides to move in, he will find different dynamics and the different types of the physical that used to go. It's not the same restaurant, it's not the same flight and travel, and so on and so forth. Think, for example, a very, very small example, like what Booking.com has done, just adding this very simple, small piece that says this hotel is COVID-19 compliant or not. And if you think about it, who would of us, I just made a booking to my uncle 4 days ago. I only looked at these hotels because you just want to make sure that, yes, it's a case where you cannot move the service to the consumer, but when the consumer will go to the physical setup, he will make sure that he will find something that's relevant to his business model. And if you look at that, what are what you're going to find in front of you in terms of the opportunities? Think about it from an opportunities perspective and from a challenges to execute the opportunities. So we have found many companies have got from, the book that says 0 to 1, but many have found 1 to 0. We have found ride-hailing companies faced a massive challenge in their business models because they were about moving people, but that's not anymore happening because people are not moving and they're actually staying at home. So what they should do. And then we have seen within this space, in the transportation space, a very clear move into the grocery delivery as a concept. So food delivery and food ordering apps moved into the grocery delivery. We've seen ride hailing doing the same thing, which is a kind of a pivot. You moved into an adjacent industry. And I think that was pretty smart. You don't move 10 steps away from what you're already doing. You just moved 1 step away. 1 step away in something that is working really well, that has spiked, and is not yet well served. And that has served the supermarkets and the grocery stores, that have served the consumers, and that have served also these companies with massive fleet. And think again about companies where they didn't need to do any pivots. It was straight ahead in their business. Like Zoom, like Microsoft Teams, a company like Zoom moved from 10 million users per day to 300 million users per day. That is, what did they need to do there? They were seeing something, and I don't think in their wildest dreams, they thought that this day is coming. But then without pivoting, without anything, they just found themselves in the right place, in the right time. So Group A, they changed a bit. They moved towards where the opportunity is. Group B, the opportunity came to them. Again, you could apply that on telehealth. On telehealth, you have seen, it's a league on their own, right? But in the telehealth, we have seen the world has been jumping on telehealth left, right, and center. And we ourselves in Vezeeta have done the same. But then we realized that not all markets are the same. It's not apple to apple at all. Developing world are interacting in this space in a very different manner. They have obliged payers and insurance firms to reimburse it. Government have played significant role. So we have seen a very, very serious growth in the developed world, but in the emerging markets, you could see the growth, but definitely the numbers are still not as big as you would have expected. So again, this is part of the opportunity side. If you think about how I would execute all of these opportunities, okay, these are a lot of opportunities. They either come to me or I would go to them, but how would I execute on them? We initially thought of two ways of looking at it. There's the internal risk and there's the external risks. The internal risks is the capacity of the company to keep their current products alive, because whether we like it or not, how the new norm would look like, again, like Dr. Sherif have said, we're not going to fly. There's a lot of things that's going to come back, not to the same as they were, but products are not going to die. You will still eat, you will still use a shampoo, you will still go to the doctor, and so on and so forth. So you don't want to lose your main product. You don't want to use your anchor business, but you also want to build a new one with a new capacities and a new internal skills. And I think that's a big challenge, or an important challenge that companies need to consider when they're trying to pivot and think of new opportunities. The second one is the external risks, which we take three angles we look at it. One is competitors, and in this part of the world, in this timing of the world, we're seeing a very strong immature crowdness. A lot of people jumping in almost one or two opportunities, a little innovation, like everybody is doing the same thing, and you end up having your service. There are 20 companies doing your service, 30 companies doing your service, taking quality down, but also taking pricing down. And then that is a very serious question that each company should think of themselves, what they will be doing. The second is the market readiness. Is the market ready? And I would call back what I've talked about, the telehealth. A very interesting insight, for example, 87% of our telehealth consultation was happening audio. And when we try to educate patients that video is much better, it will give way better interaction with the doctor, it will give better quality, they said no. They said no for zillions of reasons, for societal reasons, for risk management reasons, for security reasons. They said no for millions of reasons. But then you say, okay, how the market is ready. The quality of healthcare that you could provide is categorically different if you do it from video. Needless to say that even a lot of the authorities in our part of the world are actually questioning the concept of telehealth. So taking it either without video, then you start questioning the market readiness and what you need to do in that space. Do you need to educate the market about it? Do you need to spend money on this? And so on. And the last one is the legal. Is the legal environment is ready to your pivot changes or not? Or will you go put something to the market that legally it's not gonna fly? But I think if you play with these, if you look at the opportunities and think of what your internal skills capacity to build on this while you're not losing your core business, thinking about external factors, I definitely think you would end up in phenomenal business models and phenomenal changes that you would see in the market.
Thank you, Amir. Mekky, I'll turn to you now. I think personally, I've attended so many talks over the past years that talks about the fourth industrial revolution, and what it sounds like is with COVID and with this pandemic, that now the fourth industrial revolution is here, right? It's sitting in our laps, and we just have to deal with it. And what I heard Ayman and Dr. Sherif saying earlier is, in different ways, but effectively, what this pandemic has done is that it's kind of accelerated an ongoing trend, right? That we've been digitally transforming, whether it's on an individual, company, or government level. It's been happening maybe at a slower pace. What this pandemic led to is that an accelerated pace. You're leading a company that is in the heart of digital transformation, and you have incredibly rich experience in that space for many, many years across multiple countries. Would love to hear your perspectives on where we are today in terms of digital transformation beyond the rhetoric, right? Beyond actual tangible action. Please.
Thank you, Rahmi. Thank you, Endeavor. Thank you, AmCham. And thank you for all the participants and attendees. for joining us today. I'm really honored to speak to you today with such a distinguished bouquet of great speakers. Today, from the title, the Regrow, Restart, and Digital Transformation, it's definitely the key for the regrow and restart is the digital transformation. This is the era for the digital transformation. We spoke about it, Rahmi, many times before. You know that I've been an advocate for the digital transformation before COVID-19, years before even COVID-19, and not only myself, all the my partners, friends, and colleagues in the industry for ICT. We have been always working on the digital transformation that we believe this is the new era. And everybody in his part was participating in a way or another. And I think what happened during the last few months by COVID-19 has helped all of us to gather all our efforts collectively and focus on a clear common target, which is the digital transformation. It's not an option anymore. It's not a welfare anymore. It's a must. It's an essential step that is needed for every nation. And the question, as also mentioned before, it's not if or if not, it's only when and how. When that was already, every country was planning and having their agenda for digital transformation to be now or soon or maybe after a year or two, with an agenda for transforming different sectors gradually. I think now it's not an option to plan forward for this. We have to plan immediately for the digital transformation to make the transformation ASAP. For this to happen, and just jump directly to this point, and all of my colleagues, great speakers who spoke before me, already hinted to this, and we need to think different, out of the box, and make change and take the next step. So I think very important catalyst for the development of any sector, and for any sector to make proper transformation, is the right infrastructure. The infrastructure is needed. It's a must to make proper digital transformation. Infrastructure, now there is a trend that I think is now going to happen. It's not a choice anymore. Infrastructure as a service. So we will see new kind of players in the market that will focus in providing the infrastructure as a service, because this is the main cornerstone for digital transformation, which is the ICT infrastructure. So number one, the right infrastructure. Number two, after the infrastructure, the development in all the aspects, identifying which aspect that we need to work immediately on: education, healthcare, transport, all of these aspects. For all of this to happen, we need to identify for entrepreneurs and governments and private sector, all of that, all of these stakeholders here, they need to collaborate. So I just made these few points to mention that for this digital transformation to happen, a true collaboration between government and private sector needs to be in place. We cannot move and we cannot have proper infrastructure and make true digital transformation without collaboration between government and private sector. This is number two. Number three, any digital transformation to happen in any country needs to be blessed, supported, enforced by the government. If this is not the case, it will not happen. It will be scattered efforts, separately, the effect will be very minimal. To make true effect, this needs to be already, the government or the leadership needs to believe in it, support it, and push for it and enforce it in a way. And why? I will mention why immediately, but it's an important note here to mention that few countries in this part of the world already take this great step. Egypt is definitely one of them. We're talking here as Endeavor Egypt and AmCham Egypt. Egypt is one of the countries that already a few years ago started to make big steps in digital transformation, and we all witnessed the education part, at least, that already started before COVID-19, and we have students with a record. It's a global record that the secondary schools, the government schools, last year they were having their exams. More than 500,000 students, they're having their exams concurrently, digitally. This is a global record. Maybe we did not market or promote this globally in the most proper and efficient way, but this was a fact, and others will be followed. Why? Back to the point that why this needs to be enforced and pushed by the government, because digital transformation, it has its own enemies. And the enemies of the digital transformation, if I can identify them, there are definitely, from my point of view, there are three types. One is someone who does not want to move. He needs to be relaxed. In a way, you can say lazy or just relaxed. So he's definitely an enemy for digital transformation. And number two is someone that does not know. He doesn't know what's the digital information. What is in it for me? How this is going to help me? And number three is a conflicted person. So there is a conflict for some people. The digital transformation will not be for their benefit in a way. These people might be minimum, but definitely they will resist that. So to pave the way for the digital transformation, there are many things happening around us. Major one of them is COVID-19. But for this to take the fast track, definitely a good push to support this from the government is very much needed. Last but not least is affordable connectivity for everybody, which is by this kind of affordable connectivity, people will be able to connect with proper infrastructure and with clear direction. These are the main items that, from my point of view, that all are needed for digital transformation. Talking about the opportunity itself. So I think there are many opportunities in digital transformation for entrepreneurs, private sector, and new opportunities maybe nobody thought about it before. Just need to think about out of the box, as Ayman said, and take this step forward. And also Dr. Sherif, you highlighted this and mentioned that this is the kind of the thing that needed for the entrepreneur to think about it. So talking about the opportunity, there are many opportunities. Talking about the human capital, it's there. And talking about the technology to make such digital transformation reality, there are many technology providers. They're very well known in the world and they're very active on this. But those three, without one more important thing, they will not be able to make the transformation, which is the financing, the funding. They need proper funding, enough financial support to help for the opportunity and the technology and the human capital to work together to make such transformation. I'll stop here.
Ahmed, just to, before I move on, you know, you've made the statement, you said Egypt has made big steps on that front, but prior to that, you were talking about the catalyst of digital transformation, infrastructure as a service, and then the second two steps were steps that involved government. Would you say that among these big steps were at least realization or openness for the government to work with the private sectors on digital transformation, as well as, you know, enforcement and the support given by the government? Are these among the big steps that were made by the government?
Very true, very true. I believe that Egypt is, if I will talk about the bigger picture here, I will consider Egypt is the right geography and the right starting point. And we are blessed that we are actually having this opportunity here, starting from Egypt, to serve a big part of the world, which is Africa. Africa, everybody, I think there is no, no argument that Africa is a land of opportunity for the next 20, 30 years. We're talking about a continent where it has 1.338 billion of population. So, which is nearly the number of people in China, nearly. And we're talking about an area of more than 30 million square kilometers, which is bigger than North America. So we're talking about a big land, and we're talking about more than 16% of the population of the world. And we are here, the gateway and the gatekeepers, at the right geography. So we should think this way. We have a great opportunity that we will not be doing our job right as individuals and institutes and private sector and government as well, if we don't take a big part of this opportunity. Taking a big part of this opportunity, you have to be very well prepared for it, and we don't wait for a long time, because if nobody will wait for us. We are in a very good and strategic position to tackle and get the biggest part of this opportunity in Africa, to serve. We are from Africa and for Africa, to serve this important continent that it has the biggest number of opportunities for the coming years. I think there are some steps, good steps taken by the Egyptian government in Egypt. There are still more steps to be followed to serve Egypt and to allow the players from Egypt to expand and go and grow outside Egypt, not limited by the borders and geography of Egypt, make it bigger, make it on this important continent. I hope I answered your question.
Perfect. Yeah, I think it speaks to Amir's earlier point of marrying the marriage of opportunity with execution, right? So there's obvious opportunity is there, the circumstances are ripe. It's really about putting into play or into motion the right execution plan to capture that opportunity, because it's not going to wait for us.
I fully agree. What matters at the end is execution. What really matters.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you've laid out sort of the steps towards that very nicely. Thank you, Ahmed. Ayman, you and I, we talk a lot about digital transformation and how digitally enabled companies are that we meet within the local ecosystem. How would you assess generally, the private sector or young companies' readiness for digital transformation? Sorry, I'll rephrase that. How would you assess more the traditional side of the private sector? Family-owned businesses that are maybe now being led by the second or third generation, attempting to digitally transform. What's your reading of the state of that space today, in light of all of the potential that Ahmed spoke about, and obviously your and Amir and Dr. Sherif's remarks on digital transformation?
Sure. I think this is where I will go to pure basics, because I think that's, my experience in that area is we lack the basics when it comes to digital transformations. And, I tell you, I think COVID-19 is a blessing for that, because actually it puts a little bit more pressure on people to start to learn about that territory. And, it's a blessing in everything. The word is healing. That's one way of, the word is sort of saying enough of all the carbon and all the noise and all the travel and all so many things. I want you to do things differently. Yeah. So, to keep it very simple, Mohammed, I would tell you three things that gets in our way from my experience, from what I have seen with many companies, and some of them, are not necessarily a family owned, or some of them are actually even with young people. I think one, we lack or we come short on the definition of digital transformation. I've seen people defining having a website and a Facebook as I've done a digital transformation. And when that got actually a little bit expanded more, if they start to sell online, now they are so far advanced in digital transformation. After COVID-19, if you are doing a Zoom, you're digitally transformed. This is absolutely not it. Okay. So I think the definition itself, if you are not into artificial intelligence, into Internet of Things, IoT, into sensors, whatever your business is, and you're actually managing your business in a totally different way and using technology to drive efficiency and to basically cut part of the supply chain that became irrelevant, inefficient, that needs to be cut, and actually even look at your workforce and change the way they actually operate, then you're not really serious about digital transformation. The other, I would say, barrier that I have seen with many people is, you know, when you tell somebody, let's talk about digital transformation, and you tell you, oh, hang on, I'm going to bring my IT guy because he's actually the guy that's going to talk to you about that, and he's the one who's managing that in our company. Once you get that answer, you know that you're in trouble, right? Because actually digital transformation is not about IT. Digital transformation is about the business model. This is actually needs to be led by the CEO and the leadership team of the company. And it has to be treated, you know, like equal focus and equal important to everybody, not the IT guy. Okay. So I would say that the second thing. The third thing that I have seen is like, if you fixed 1 and 2, right, is the ability to write a business case. And that's actually, that becomes very, very tricky. So when everybody says, okay, now the whole leadership team wants to do the digital transformation, we have a good definition for it. Now what do we do? And you find people like kind of, you know, is it selling online? You go back to the selling online, Facebook and website. I think, you know, if you are not able to sort of say, I have this pain area in my business, and here's, you know, the inefficiency that I'm seeing into it, and here's where I want to cut costs or drive speed or satisfy my customer better. If you articulate the real issue, and then the next question, with the help of the IT, with the help of all the companies that are around, and your question here would say, can technology help me solve that problem or get better in that area? And then you start to put whatever the Internet of Things or the artificial intelligence or all the digital transformational elements and toolkits to solve that problem. This is when it starts to get serious. And start to get serious also because once you get success, then people get excited about it. If you keep talking about digital transformation and a leadership team, and I've seen that actually live, meeting on it on a weekly basis, but no progress because they have not identified a core issue that they want to solve. So once you write that business case, it helps you move forward. And honestly, you know, we've talked a lot today about, you know, thinking out of the box. But in digital transformation, this is one of the areas that we actually, especially as an Egyptian, should not think out of the box. And you know, when I was in the US and somebody, you know, comes to the office and say, you know, we need to get together and do a brainstorming and think out of the box. I always used to tell them, don't ever tell an Egyptian to think out of the box. Because actually we don't have a box, you know, and that's pretty dangerous, you know. And if you want to do digital transformation and you want to reinvent everything in that process, it's endless. You will get totally lost. So I think part of it is implement and learn from somebody else who had success in that area. Research and reapply. This is where actually you need, actually this transformation is not about creativity. It's about discipline. And I'm sure Ahmed can talk to us a lot, and Dr. Sherif and Amir about that. And like, it's all about discipline. And contrary to what people believe, it's not about innovating every day. So you know, that's what I have seen. And you know, sometimes the discussion are so funny. You know, you ask people about, where are you in the digital transformation? Yo, we're very advanced. And you sit with them and say, okay, let me show you my website. Oh, okay.
Which usually still has bugs, you know. Yeah, I 100% agreed. I wanna turn to Amir. You know, it's 5 p.m., so I also want to be mindful of time. But I want to go back to seizing opportunities, Amir. So I want to go back to you. What are your views on opportunities in cross-border expansion and venturing into new markets? You talked about pivots a little bit and revisiting business model and the extent of how far it is from your core. I want to talk about cross-border and new markets. And I know that Vezeeta has recently, launched in Nigeria and in Kenya. And again, where this question is coming from, partly coming from, is for the longest time, the GCC has been the natural pull for Egyptian companies in general, Egyptian entrepreneurs. You're expanding into Saudi, you're expanding into the UAE. So, and now I'm seeing Vezeeta as an example, but also other examples from the ecosystem looking south and looking at the continent. And Ahmed mentioned Africa earlier, and I know Dr. Sherif Kamel wrote a very thoughtful blog post recently, again, on the opportunities that Africa offer. So I'd love to hear your perspectives on cross-border expansion and venturing into new markets, and on Africa in particular as a destination. Amir, you're on mute, sorry.
Sorry.
Rewind?
Yeah, of course. So when we think about Africa, we basically, first of all, our first real market of expansion was Saudi Arabia, which is the normal and the conventional growth from Egypt. And then it became a key market for our operations today, obviously beside Egypt. But when we think of what other markets we can grow to, we actually thought of two things. One, which one is a market that we can do really well at because of our products and because of the similarity of the market that we're operating in. But there's another aspect, which is what are the markets that we can leverage our strong footprint in Egypt? And then we found Africa has these two opportunities. GCC is a fantastic market, but let's face it, not so much similarities with what you would find in Egypt. They're far different. The GDP per capita, it's the public sector part there, not only in the infrastructure, like what Mekky was talking about, which was a very important piece and move, but even in the services, they play significant role in that part. In Egypt, it's still more driven by the private sector when it comes to the services side. And if you go to Africa, you would find it's a kind of the other side of the extreme. So Egypt is like stays in the middle, that is playing a good part, that is private sector is doing something, public sector is doing something. If you go to Africa, you'd find almost very little is happening on that front. And then there was a huge opportunity for a company like us. One, you go to markets where number of doctors per 10,000 inhabitants is really low. In Egypt, we're talking about 20 doctors per 10,000 inhabitants. In markets like Nigeria, it goes down to 4.5 and 5. Almost the same in markets like Kenya. So what you can offer them, technology could actually help put these people to doctors like those in Egypt. And then you have offered them a huge pain, you have fixed them a huge pain, but you have also solved a very serious business increase to very high qualified physicians landscape in a country like Egypt. That would be a little bit different if you think about it from the GCC, which you will try to contain the supply and the demand from their own market. So this is one way of how you would look at Africa. The second thing is also the size of impact that you could do, even if you would be sticking to the same country. You go there and you would find very little technology adopted in these markets. And there is also a lot of readiness from the infrastructure perspective, like payment. One of the major things that we have been building in all markets that we're opening is what are the payment gateways that we could do, and how many are using, do they have banking accounts that we can depend on? But when you go to Africa and a market like Kenya, you don't need a bank account, you only need an M-Pesa account. And then you actually will build on this, and you'll have, literally, you can access every single body in the community, in the country, provide them telehealth, provide them booking, you provide them pharmacy, because they can pay, which is a huge piece in the e-commerce and the digital space So this was also made us very excited about this market. Third but not least is war talents. Think about hiring in Saudi Arabia and how difficult is this because of so many opportunities, because the support coming from the government, and it becomes very difficult space. So really, to have a starting point, you're fighting against very, very big companies and the public sector clearly overpaying to attract talent because of the scarcity of the talent. If you go to Africa, I would say it's the other way around. It's you would find talent, not as sophisticated as you would find in Dubai, but I would definitely say they're pretty decent level of a talent. And the war fight on these talents are much, much less than what you would expect. And you could get these ones, provide real strong culture and real vision to change their countries, and then you could play a significant role there. I think the question remains is how you would position yourself as a more of a regional player than one particular country player, so that you can end up attracting the right consumer base, but also attracting the right support from the public entities, from the different institutions like the syndicates of physicians and the likes. I think that's also an important angle that we would think of.
Thank you. Dr. Sherif, would love to hear just quick remarks from you on again, opportunities that the continent offers. I think many of us have read your blog post, which shed a lot of very interesting insights on, just asking people, like pulling attention towards the South and where this is where the opportunity is. Can you talk to us a little bit about it?
Sure. Very quickly, because I think Amir covered the issues that more or less defines the continent. I'll just add a few comments. I look at Africa as the continent of this century. I don't think in the late tail of the century, Africa will look like what it is today. 54 countries, very young population, ample opportunities. And if you go back to your opening remarks, you were saying that would entrepreneurs thrive when there are crises, chaos, and so on, but also when there are, challenges right, left, and center. And I think that's exactly where the opportunity will come. The article actually I wrote relates to an opportunity that was created 2.5 years ago, which basically looked at women in Africa. Not young women in Africa, but women in Africa who have ideas that they took to the next level, and they wanted an opportunity, a window, to share that idea across their national borders, exactly to Amir's point. So they did not want to look at it as country specific, but more intra-trade sort of platform where they can scale up their business opportunities. What were they looking at? The challenges faced by the different societies and countries in Africa. And if you look at Africa, it's a continent with ample challenges. There is no one size that fits all, that's for sure. Western Africa is totally different than Eastern Africa, obviously very, very different than Sub-Saharan Africa, and so on. I was amazed by the number of women who applied for that program. You're talking a program that is more or less rigid in accepting 200 with specific criteria to get into a one-year program where they actually get the know-how of how to scale up their businesses. So if we want 200, and in every single turn, we get more than 3,000 that actually meet the criteria, and we drop about 4,000 extra that do not meet the criteria. That tells you about the opportunity for women in Africa, aging on average between 18, 19, 20, all the way to maybe, I don't know, mid-50s or something. This is the average we've seen. In 2 programs, we've had representatives from 54 countries. I must say, it is very unfortunate that in both programs, we only had 1 person from Egypt. We didn't have anybody in the first program. We had one entrepreneur in the second program. But we had out amongst the 400, more than 100 from Nigeria. more than 50 from South Africa, more than 50 from Kenya. And then the rest of the countries like 2, 3, 4, and so on. How many industries and business sectors covered? About 32. So basically covering most sectors. That's an opportunity. And we've seen and we heard what Amir just mentioned of the similarities of with Egypt, more or less, not just to create opportunity, but also to realize an impact, which I think is extremely important. I still believe in Africa. I think I don't want to give the sort of the large slogans, the land of opportunities, and so on and so forth, but it is actually a space that has opportunities right, left, and center. Again, it's the environment that Ahmed actually alluded to, rightly so, that actually enables those startups not just to exist, but also to grow and thrive.
Thank you. If I may ask everyone, if anyone wants to pose any questions, please share it in the Q&A box and we'll address them. I have one last question. I'll address it to you, Ayman, but I would love to invite participation from all four of you because it's a very important topic. It's the topic of talent, right? I think in one way or another, you've all talked about talent, whether it's people, data, and access to tech, as you, Dr. Sherif, talked about it, whether it's the real secret to unlocking the execution, to Amir's point. Ahmed, you spoke about it. Ayman, you talked about the mindset. So Egypt is always applauded for having very favorable demographics, educated population, huge population, etc. Yet access to talent continues to be among the top, if not the top, challenge that entrepreneurs face, or when they're building, especially when they're scaling up their business. And we've even found that out in a recent research we've conducted with Strategy and last year, very much at par with access to finance. So I would love to hear your perspectives, Ayman, on that, on the talent and human capital, and how can Egypt really catch up and be relevant in an environment that's changing very quickly, and opportunities that might not, wait for us for very long.
Yeah, I think you put your hand, Rahmi, on a very important topic, because at the end of the day, no matter even how digitally transformed we are, how machine we are enabled, at the end of the day, the talent minds are the crucial bit, and that will never go away. And what will also never go away is that we will get scarcity of talent more every day. I think what we're seeing today is not going to get better in the near future. Okay, so again, in that same atmosphere of being comfortable, being uncomfortable, I'm moved on with that and sort of said, okay, now if let's, at least in the way, when I was managing Mountain View or DMG, the way I focused on it is I said, okay, now we will get the right talent, but the key question is, how do we keep them? And what I have seen in many places, and in my days in Pepsi, the turnover are extremely high. And I think right now that's a huge issue for many, and very, very disruptive when you have a very high turnover within your organization. I mean, there are some healthy turnover. I mean, you don't want to keep everybody forever. But I think what you need to do in today's environment is to actually be, like we say, customer oriented. We need to be employee oriented. We need to actually give our talent the comfort to operate they want to operate. That we have championed a happiness in the workplace type of program, and that allowed us to rethink the way we're thinking about all our HR policies. I think in today's world, with whatever happening with COVID, it actually showed us that we don't need people to sign in every day to be productive. It also showed us something else, that I can actually acquire talent that work in the US or work in India or work in China. So actually my tool of talent needs to be broader, right? At the end of the day, and back to my point of you need diversity and you need inclusion, that's actually becoming more and more important. Now, if I would give an advice to everybody, and you know, I've done that in one of the companies that you know, I help and work with. I think honestly, it's very, very important that somebody within the company, based on whatever area you believe COVID have helped you improve the company. If it's an HR area, for example, and the company is now more able to operate with people at home and and that create efficiency, more employee happiness, etc. You want to make sure that you capture that learning and turn it into a structural way that you will keep with you beyond COVID. Because the worst thing that could happen is tomorrow, COVID is actually over, and we all go back to the normal way we're doing everything as if nothing happened. And actually, the tendency of human being is to do that. Because again, we hate change, right? So, and if you have done something better with your customer, so actually, each one of us in his own workplace need to, and engage the talent. That's how you engage the talent. Bring people in and sort of say, okay, now, we have improved in that area, or COVID have helped us improve in that area. How can we push it one step further in a structural way? So actually don't go back to the norm. Today's talent, what do they need? They actually need more freedom. They need to be more empowered. They don't need boundaries. When you tell people you have to come to the office every day, I mean, they don't want that, okay? And they can be more productive by doing so. Accepting that would be a key thing. And don't expect it to get better, honestly. I mean, I think that would be a dream. It won't happen.
Thank you.
If I may follow up on, just not to break the line of thought, I think Ayman is spot on in what he actually said. But let me just build on what he said. I think talent is people. And I truly believe that people are the game changer in our society. So if we want more innovators and more entrepreneurs to make a difference, we also want to increase that pool of talent. Because some will leave, some will move, some will change their minds, but you need to increase the pool. And I think we're blessed with our 100+ million Egyptians, with, I don't know, 55, 60% are under the age of 30. And by the way, that does not mean that an entrepreneur has to be young, but still having fresh minds across the board. And I mean across the board, because I think we always fall in the trap that we always think Cairo and the big cities. I think talent and capacities are all over Egypt. I've seen it myself, 600-700 kilometers to the south of Cairo in Upper Egypt. That pool needs to be nurtured, needs to be educated. And I think, and I know I'm going to draw a bit of an extreme parallel here today. And it's really extreme. I'm envious that Bay Area produced throughout 10,000 startups last year, $130 billion of venture capital investment. Of course, we are miles behind them, but we have to start somewhere. How did they start? It's the one idea I think that could make all the difference, which is creating that we keep on using it, we keep on talking about it, but we don't have it. Create that ecosystem that includes the universities, the banks, the corporates, the environment where they can thrive. This is how those technopolis are all over the world, and they actually grow and thrive in numbers. So I think our ecosystem very positively grew over the last 10 years when it comes to tech-based, because we've been in that sort of entrepreneurship mindset for many decades before. But I'm talking about that ecosystem. But still, I think we're by far still scratching the surface. So unless we do that, I think it's going to be a long haul. And with that, there is an element that we keep forgetting, which is the innovation capital. Are we investing in innovation capital? I do not think that the innovation capital will go anywhere with the structure, content, and knowledge repository that our students get exposed to at the school level. Because once you reach university, it's already too late. And that's why those who we see today that make a difference are those who are just built in, extremely talented, extremely gifted. They are very passionate. They want to go for it. They want to make a difference. But you have to have that factory line that produces those people from the school level. And just before you asked me the question, do you think that entrepreneurship can be taught and it's not gifted? Of course. Anything in life can be taught, of course, with varying degrees, but it can be taught. And before passing the floor to someone else, I just saw a very early question from Hassan on the chat, not on the Q&A, when he was asking about the readiness of people, data, and access to technology. I think Ayman answered that point very nicely, very comprehensively. I would just add one thing to confirm and echo what Ayman said. Hassan, I myself, 5 years ago, I did a study with over 100 SMEs on their definition or lack of digital transformation, and it's shocking. And I promise you, these are companies that are good in the market, big in the market, have market share in the market. But when Ayman said maybe they hardly have a website, I would think that's a bit of a stretch for some of them. So we are answering Hassan, the readiness factor is we're a bit on the backside here. Having said that, that's very promising, and it's still very positive, because I think we've created something over the past few years out of that very challenging environment. So if we can just improve it a bit, I think the scaling up of that space could be very, very promising. Thank you.
Thank you. We have some questions. I'll jump to the questions and then come back to Mekky and Amir if you want to comment on the issue of talent. So there's a question for Amir. Speaking of market readiness as key element and giving the example of the telehealth service Vezeeta launched, how are you handling the new model given the challenges mentioned? You know, when you said people using audio rather than video calls, and will it carry on post-COVID-19 crisis? The question is from Amira Usema.
So one quick comment on the talent, because I think that's I just can't let this go, because I think talent is the core of our businesses, and that's how it's built on it. And I think Ayman and Dr. Sherif have said it all. Just echoing one piece there, one exercise that we have found during COVID-19 when we were obliged to let it go. It's not by decision. It's not like we decided that people could work from home and let's see whether this will be good or bad. We're obliged. We were dragged into this, and then we're surprised by the quality of productivity that we have got. We're surprised that we don't need to be over the shoulders, making sure that they are in the office in the right timing. We're surprised that they were delivering way better. In general, our tech organization, for example, have almost 30%, at least 30%, because it's a little bit qualitative, but at least 30% increase in their productivity. And I think I was not personally an advocate to this concept, but today, more empowerment and more letting go, particularly in the today's work environment, yields unheard of results. I know it's difficult. It was very difficult for me personally, but I think in Vezeeta we have seen miracles on that front. I'm actually, one of the jokes that we always say inside the company, we're afraid of the day when we go back to the office. So having that, I will commenting on what's happening on the new business models. Again, a very clear and good balance between the 2 and the 3 initiatives is a very important thing. So our core business, we're helping patients book a doctor and go to make a visit to this doctor in their clinics or the hospital. We keep a very clear resource allocation on that business versus the new one. And that also is translated on the P&L. We also try to look at it from a very different unit economics, which is a well-known term in the tech world, but to simplify the P&L, how much money this makes me, how much investment I'm making, because the P&L is the most, again, particularly in this new world, is the most revealing piece of information and data that tells you whether your new product is working well or not, and what changes that you need to do in your new product to make it happen. rather than having it in a pool of many products. One of them is doing really well, the other is not, but you can't see it because the average is well. And this is the second thing. Third, the answer is yes. Will you keep it? Will you carry it post COVID-19? The answer is yes, because again, I'm echoing Dr. Sherif that I hate the word new norm, but there is a reality that we will be living in a world that's not 100% identical to what it used to be. So I think, yes, telehealth is here to stay, but also, yes, doctors' normal booking will here to stay, and the medication delivery is here to stay, but also normal traditional parts is here to stay, and the mix and the portfolio of different businesses is a must-have. The question is where you will be putting the emphasis on them. Last quick comment, I think I know this is weird, but I think having the right product and the right product market fit does not mean, particularly if it's not B2B, does not mean that you're not investing in consumer education. If you don't invest in consumer education, it's not going to happen. Again, whether we like it or not, it's a myth. No products make it to the market without telling the population that there is a new product and why they should be using it, and you're reminding it with it. I hope that answers the question. So I will leave it there.
There's a question from Hatem al-Shamma regarding Africa. So Mekky, I'll direct this to you. So Hatem is saying, as discussed, there's a dire need for Egypt to pivot to Africa. What is hindering us today? What are the tactics to achieve this? And who are the major stakeholders that should push for it? And what will the role be? So what's hindering us? How do we get there? And who are the stakeholders involved?
Okay, yeah, good question.
If anyone wants to take a stab at it as well.
Sure. Okay, what's hindering us? There are many factors here could be hindering us, but I think we can deal with all of them, and we can find a way to just take the step forward and resolve it. So one of the things is that we don't know exactly the nature of each country, of these 54 countries. As Dr. Sherif said, every region may have a different criteria or style or requirements, but there are very common requirements that will be needed in all of them, which is, if I will start, I will always go back to the main thing, the infrastructure. Without infrastructure, all of what we're talking about will not go in the fast track. First, this is one of the main challenges here that is going to affect or cause delays for the digital transformation. So one of the factors here that needs to be looked at quickly is there are opportunities in the infrastructure in most of the countries in Africa. And we have a great position here to look at these opportunities. And talking about the infrastructure, I'll put it between brackets, smart infrastructure. How smart infrastructure? Sharing the infrastructure, which is a new term, similar to the ride hailing and all of the other terms that we used for different kinds of services. You know what? You can do this in the infrastructure. Infrastructure could be used as a service, as I mentioned. So infrastructure, now, it's not the area that the operators or service provider should focus on. Actually, there are ways that we can have shared infrastructure, utilize the current infrastructure in a more and most efficient way by using the infrastructure in a smart way and building the new infrastructure in a smart way as well. The current way, from my point of view, in many cases, because there is learning, was mostly burning capital, because everyone is building and investing in his infrastructure on the passive and the active side. There are two components here to be able to provide any service. There is a passive component, which is civil, electromechanical, like current building, making the building, the structure, the passive side of it. But there are other things that you put on the top of it, which is the service, the active side, the solution, the technology, the software, regardless inside the box or outside the box, or there is a box or there is no box. it's mainly how will you be able to provide this? And I fully agree with Ayman that it's mainly needs to be offered in the most discipline, in a very organized way. Best practice, not best effort. So this is what we should focus on. So because we don't have the luxury of reinventing the wheel, okay? Let's ride the best wheel and run fast, because we don't have the luxury also to be slow. We don't have the luxury to lose opportunities because we're still starting to reinvent the wheel and building the new model. No, there are best practices done in many different areas, and let's learn from this. Let's find the best model that can suit us, and it will not be exactly the same in every country. It could be customized in a way, but there are some common factors that needs to be in place. So I think this is answering mainly the hurdles part. And I think if we focus from my point of view, that if we focus on the smart infrastructure, best practice, and finding the customized model for every part or every country, this can solve it to a great extent. The stakeholders here, there are between governments and the private sector. I believe that if we talk about Egypt here, maybe I'm a bit biased here, but I believe that there is a sort of an opportunity here, that this is the right geography to start from and build a good reference, start to address the other countries in Africa, and don't give attention to the countries that did not answer the first question, which is when. Go to the countries that answered the first question. So don't spend a lot of time here to tell them that digital transformation is important. If they don't know yet that digital transformation is important, don't waste your time there. They will know one day, so one day will know, you will be ready and addressed also already the places from this part of the geography that they have the opportunity that you can address and tackle, and show result, quick wins. Make some quick results that will give you more strength and power, and also it will encourage you and be more brave to go bigger and bigger and bigger. There is no limit here. Actually, the sky is the limit in this. And I believe that the investments that will be in the coming 15, 20 years in Africa in ICT infrastructure will exceed, it will be trillions of dollars, not billions of dollars.
Thank you, Ahmed. I think on that trillions of dollars of notes, I'm gonna wrap up the discussion.
Yeah, it's a good
It's past 5:30 and I want to be mindful of your time. I know you have companies to build and worlds to change. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. You've offered incredible insight, very grounded perspectives, and I think this is what we need. You know, perspectives are grounded and inspired new thinking for many of us and many of the ones who dialed in. So thank you for taking the time for sharing all of these insights. Thank you, of course, to the AmCham team and for the Endeavor team for organizing this webinar. The webinar is going to be recorded and it's going to be made available online for anyone who missed it. It's definitely a great resource to listen to it over and over again. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.